Today, we're going to deconstruct a track that feels less like a song and more like a place. SB19's really avant-garde release, Everblack. The artists themselves call it a conceptual void, an actual architectural space built from nothing but shadow and sound. So let's dive in and figure out how they built this thing. And this quote, wow, it just perfectly captures the intensity of it all, doesn't it? This isn't about catchy hooks or singing along in the car. It's about a full-body immersive experience. It kind of sets the stage for what we're about to get into. So that's the big question, right? How on earth did SB19 and their producers use music theory, sound design, and all this engineering to create a feeling that's both ancient and, futuristic at the same time? Let's break down the technical skeleton of this sonic void. All right, first things first, we gotta look at the foundation. The song's entire unsettling atmosphere rests on a very specific and totally intentional musical blueprint. The key here is something called the Phrygian mode. Now, don't worry, you don't need a music degree for this. Just think of it as a type of scale that automatically has this tense, unresolved character. It's the secret ingredient that gives Everblack that dark, almost ancient quality. So let's compare it. A standard minor scale, the kind you hear in most pop music, feels complete. It has a sense of resolution, kind of like coming home at the end of a long day. But the Phrygian mode, it deliberately avoids that comfort. It feels like a question that never, ever gets an answer, just leaving you hanging. And this structure is so important. The entire song is built on just two chords that loop over and over and over. There's no big resolution. The harmony is totally static. It refuses to go anywhere, basically trapping you in this beautiful but stagnant loop that perfectly represents the whole idea of an Everblack, a darkness that just doesn't end. On top of that, the tempo is a glacial 68 beats per minute. I mean, it's crawling. But what's really clever is the timing is intentionally loose. The drums drag just a tiny bit behind the beat, and it creates this physical sensation of weight. It feels like you're trying to run underwater. So we have the blueprint, the musical theory. Now let's talk about the actual building materials. Because if the theory is the plan, then the sound design is the strange, broken stuff they used to actually construct this void. A key tool they used is granular synthesis. It's a fascinating technique, really. You take a sound, you shatter it into thousands of microscopic little grains, and then you can reassemble them into something completely new, like an atmospheric texture or shimmering cloud. In Everblack, that's what they did to the vocals. Little snippets were shattered to create this dark, shimmering atmosphere that just surrounds you. I love how one critic described it, like glitter made of glass. These tiny grains are designed to float all around your head, making the whole space feel alive, but also really unstable. And the drums are just as complex. That heavy kick isn't just one sound. It's like a 3-layer recipe. It starts with a classic, deep 808 bass drum. Then they blended that with a real-world recording of a heavy metal door slamming shut. And finally, they processed the whole thing through a bit crusher to get that crunchy digital grit. The vocals themselves are intentionally made to sound damaged. They're processed with something called parallel distortion, which is a technique that makes the voice sound strained and raw, almost like the singers are fighting to be heard over the immense weight of this void. Then you have the reverb. Oh man, the reverb. On certain phrases, the echo just swells into this massive 10-second tail. Imagine shouting into a canyon and just letting the sound hang in the air for what feels like an eternity. And then it's just gone. They abruptly cut the reverb off, and it creates this powerful vacuum effect, like all the air and sound just got sucked out of the room. It leaves you in this sudden, really jarring silence. So, the crucial point here is that these technical choices aren't just for show. They're not just cool effects. They are meticulously engineered to physically manipulate your experience. The song doesn't just describe a void, it literally pulls you into one. This is a perfect example of what's called prosody. It's just a fancy word for when the music perfectly matches the meaning of the lyrics. So take this line from the song, "Going Under." Right as that line is sung, the producers literally muffle the entire song with a filter. All the high frequencies get rolled off, making the track sound exactly like it's being heard from underwater. So you aren't just hearing about going under, you are sonically submerged right along with the vocalist. And for anyone listening on headphones, it gets even more intimate. The track uses binaural panning to place whispers and textures in a full 360-degree space around you. You'll hear things on your far left, your far right, and maybe even what feels like behind you. It creates this really claustrophobic, inside-your-head kind of experience. So what does this all mean? I mean, this isn't just some dark song. It actually represents a pretty significant evolution, and it places Everblack in this fascinating cultural context as a new kind of pop music. To get that grit, the producers used a really cool technique called worldizing. Instead of using a clean, perfect digital reverb, they actually recorded parts of the song in a real, acoustically ugly space, like a concrete basement, just to capture its natural, raw reflections. It gives the track an authentic, tangible soul that you just can't simulate. This table pretty much sums up the whole shift perfectly. Traditional P-pop usually goes for clear, resolving chords and super polished production, all for catchy melodic enjoyment. Everblack just flips that on its head. It uses static, unresolved loops and this gritty, industrial production. The goal isn't just enjoyment, it's immersive survival. It's a bold move into art pop, fusing these industrial textures with the raw emotion of Filipino Kundiman. And that brings us to our final question for you. Everblack is an architectural void, right? It's built from all these very specific and intentional technical choices. But after you've survived the journey through it, how did it actually make you feel? Was it a claustrophobic, unsettling space? Or did you find a strange kind of beauty in all that darkness?